Oh, I'm delighted to be asked to do this because of my relationship and friendship, working and otherwise with this man, but I'm just knocked out with the movie. So first of all, Tommy, congratulations.
Thank you, Ron.
Um, I they gave me a list of questions, but I have my own.
Okay,
And more
let's answer yours.
more more of the dialogue nature. But I'm first of all, I'm so happy to see a Western in an age in which, because this is a Directors Guild audience, in which it's very difficult to get a movie made that's not driven by special effects or foreign sales. To make a movie about America and about the West, by way of background, we share a DNA. Tommy is West Texas through and through. My family moved from West Texas to Bakersfield to work in the oil fields in about 1915. And if you've been to Bakersfield, and my father's from near there too, that Bakersfield is Texas, cotton and oil. And so we spent a lot of time talking about that shared experience when part of our DNA when we made a movie about Ty Cobb. But I also want to ask you, Tommy, just as background for all of us, given how difficult it is, I know a novel existed in the late 1980s. Give us a little background about, did the novel find you? Did you find the novel? How did this come together?
Well, my friend Michael Fitzgerald, with whom I've made a movie before, sent me the book and asked if I would read it and decide whether or not I thought there was a good movie in it. So I read it and I said, "Oh yeah, there's a good movie in here if we can just get it out." So we went and bought the rights and wrote a screenplay and started looking for financing, and we had good luck doing that with Luc Besson of EuropaCorps. They're, based out of Paris, and then a couple of friends who we simply offered them a chance to be part of the movie business, and we only charged them money. So it didn't take long to put the money together, and off we went. We were in a big hurry, but I wanted to shoot in the spring in northeastern New Mexico, and at that time it was in late summer, so we had to write fast and get organized fast. So in one way that was a good thing, because we didn't really we didn't have time to agonize over it or go through any agony or delays whatsoever. It was pretty smooth and lucky, actually.
My screensaver on my computer says "write fast, don't think." So I understand it can only hurt the ball club when you think too much. One of the other things that, besides the great visuals of that and visual storytelling, which is just classic and I can't get enough of in this movie, I know that somebody said when I was finding out about this movie that this was a revisionist Western. I think John Wayne and Roy Rogers are revisionist Westerns, even though I like those people. I know the stories of my great-great-grandmother coming west and living in West Texas and raising 7 girls because the dad had died, and killing rattlesnakes and trying to kill wolves on a dirt farm 75 miles south of Lubbock between Tahoka and Post, which makes Midland, Odessa look like Paris, I think. And I'm so delighted to see women that aren't, sort of the Howard Hawks, Matt, please don't go, and the hooker with a heart of gold, even though some great movies, like My Darling Clementine, has one of each, and they're fabulous. But I'm thrilled to see a movie with this great range of real women under real duress in real times. Tommy, was that one of the things in the book that also drew you?
Absolutely. I mean, the novel itself is not a very good novel. By literary standards, but if you look at it from a cinematic point of view, it has a lot of originality to offer. The idea of a long journey, a long journey, of course, has always been a good narrative structure, but you have a lot of chances for originality if you're dealing with women and they're insane, and they're headed east.
And George couldn't wait to head west again.
That's right. No, it was the opportunities to take to expose some ironies in American history by looking at an inverse image were rather rich, I think, with this book.
For a story and a narrative that is sometimes excruciating and often about survival and frightening, it is full of humor, which is also, I think, great American storytelling. This is fine cheese, so why don't we marry? There are lines
right.
like that everywhere.
That's over here in my pocket.
And thankfully, and another thing that ties me to the West and to my family is music. I remember stories of my great-grandmother, and they saved everything they had to buy a piano, and they had a house out in the middle of nowhere that was ravaged by dust storms, but they all had this piano. It was their life investment. And some of my great-great-aunts and such could play music by ear. And once when I saw Hilary Swank's character and the fact that the movie ends on music and there's music scattered throughout, I thought that was somehow, I don't want to read too much into it, but the movie is strangely life-affirming for such a tale. Tommy?
Well, yeah, it's built out of metaphors. The luxury of the imagination that music provides to people is important. These people are impoverished. Women certainly objectified and trivialized every minute of the day, while being told, as Victorian women, that they're to be cared for and treasured and elevated. It's pretty tough. So there's one metaphor after another riddled through this movie, and music is one of them. It has to do with the imagination, life of the imagination, and the poverty we suffer when we go without it, and when we have these illusions about our roles in society. This movie was made to be seen more than once. Okay, so I'm just trusting you all to go see it again. When you do, you'll see that Mary B. Cuddy, as a Victorian woman striving for independence, has got some pretty deep and severe problems from the very beginning that are revealed as you think about them in retrospect in her scene with John Lithgow, the man of God, and as she looks out the window in that beautiful angular light into the distance and says, I don't think I can live without real music much longer. It's pretty disturbing. You kind of forget about it as the movie goes by, but next time you see it, that scene will have more meaning than it does now. So please go and see it again, and take the family, take grandma, buy the T-shirt, and tell all your neighbors to go see it as well, because it's worthwhile.
One of the things before I've seen it twice, and I'll pay money the next time, there are a lot of shots that, in classic terms, tell the story in a loose shot. There are the close-ups are there when you need them. I know you've worked with. This is the first time with Mr. Prieto?
Yes, sir.
There's a shot of the man who comes out to challenge at the start of the journey to challenge George, because he was part of the claim jumping, and he pulls a gun, and you have a gun, and Hillary pulls a rifle, and then you knock the gun away. The whole shot is one big loose landscape of the wagon pulling away, and the man receding into the background, and Hillary. I was so thrilled to see it. And then we do a flashback, I believe, that fills us in on the story. We come back, and the reverse is an equally big shot. We never go in tight. We don't have to go in tight. It breathes, and it tells the story so much better. And there is shot after shot like that. I think when you pull the three crazy women out of the river, trusting to hold the loose shot, which is hard to find with a lot of young directors, and we're not young directors, that overcut. And I thought it was very elegant in that regard. I'm sure you and Mr. Prato and your editing team were making these decisions every day.
Yeah, we were making these decisions every day. God was a big help because he was going to turn out the lights at some point. So you have to make these big, wide, loose shots work, and whether you want to or not. And we're not really, choppy people. So we were. Thank you for appreciating the work that we did on a large scale. But you know as well as I do what goes through your mind when you start running out of light.
Yes, we shot Cobb together with I've got to work 3 times with the great Russell Boyd, the great Australian who sort of is the dean of Australian cinema, shot all of Peter Weir's films, and he's just a genius outside, he says, because they couldn't afford any sets, so they had to figure out how to balance light. And it's something of a lost art, especially in the digital age where they say, oh, we'll fix it later. But when you get a great cameraman who is matching light that doesn't match, it's really a talent and a gift. And this film is full of great loose images.
I was very happy to have Rodrigo working on this film. Our minds we talked a lot about it and exchanged images from books at the beginning, but it didn't take us very long to start operating of a single mind. In my opinion, I composed every shot in this movie, but I would often find myself with my little viewfinder saying, "Okay, whoever's taking notes, we're going to put a 35 millimeter lens right here. It's going to be 8.5 feet off the ground, and we'll put it on a jib arm." And then I go, boom, a little bump, and I look over, and it's Prieto. I said, "What are you doing?" "¿Qué estás haciendo?" And he said, "No, what are you doing?" And we're both have the same idea at the same time. That happened frequently. So it didn't take very long for us to. The movie was beginning to shoot itself to tell us what it sounded like, and it became this particular movie gathered its own momentum quite early, photographically as well as in other aspects.
Now I just saw the end of. Where did you end up shooting most of it?
Most of it was shot in northeastern New Mexico, about 20 miles north of the community of Las Vegas. That particular part of the country is unmolested pretty much, and it's part of what we have remaining of the great northwestern grasslands. It's the same country that comprises Nebraska today, that used to comprise most of Kansas, parts of North Texas, even around Post.
And there's some Georgia in here?
Georgia, the place that stood in for the so-called civilized town in Iowa, was a town that was built by a historian, architectural historian in Georgia. He just bought all the 19th century houses he could find in Georgia and Alabama, and bought some land and made a little town. Turned out to be perfect. We agonized over where we were going to shoot that for months, trying to figure out ways to photographically or digitally insert trees in the country around Galisteo, New Mexico, and it wasn't working too good. So we were very lucky to find this place in Georgia.
Before I switch subjects, as a writer, and Tommy's also a writer, every scene that's constructed, obviously has to have forces of opposition, but you also want it to go in a direction that maybe you didn't see. And as when a writer discovers it, it's sort of like the muses saying, no, the scene goes here, and then when you get to shoot it and the actors act it. And, I think we've all seen enough knife fights. I've never seen a knife fight quite like this that kept turning where, the man steals the woman and you have a knife, he has a knife, he has two knives, you have a rock, and the shot from the crazy woman, and you get the horse. I thought that was taking a kind of a scene we've seen in movies and doing something we've never seen before.
Yeah, it was part of our never-ending search for originality. We can't really tell our story to anyone's satisfaction if we're telling one they've already seen and heard. So we looked for the unexpected in our pursuit of the expected result.
I know that having been through the process with this man, that we share something that a lot of directors don't share anymore, and that's, I really believe in, and I know he believes in preparation, rehearsal. Something when you talk to some actors and agents today, they go, rehearsal, that's extra, And when we rehearsed Cobb, I would give 4 scenes a day and say, I expect everybody to be off book. You learn lines on your time, not my time. Yeah. And we'll do revisions. Bring all your bad ideas and your good ideas to rehearsal. And throughout the process of rehearsal, for 2 weeks, I'll do the script revisions, and I'll have ideas too. Because when we start shooting the movie, I'm the writer-director. He's the writer-director. I don't have time to be putting blue pages under your door the next day. So we treat it like theater in that regard, and film and athletics in every other regard. And I think our shared background also in athletics, we call rehearsal practice. And you couldn't imagine starting a football game or a baseball game without putting in your practice time. And,
no, we don't. We don't play that old game of shopping for shots or trying to figure out what to say. The readiness is all, as another writer said at one time. That was something that I was gratified to see in your work, Ron, is that your respect for preparation, and gave me confidence to go ahead and expect that from the people I work with. It's been important.
On my sets, I learned early on, and somebody taught me that the stand-ins, who are often just locals that you hire that approximate the size and the shape of the actors, that they learn all the lines immediately and mimic the physical actions that the actors are doing throughout the process, so that when we're actually lighting and tweaking, they are earning their keep. And if they don't pay attention, we replace them. And if they do pay attention, I give them a line later in the movie somewhere that doesn't hurt the movie.
The stand-ins are actually important if they can look at and memorize and mimic on an extended, continuous basis the movements of the actors that they've within the circumstances of light. It's crucial. I don't know that they need to learn the lines, but I do know they need to learn where to put their hands.
Well, they stay out of trouble if they're learning their lines, I think.
Yeah. It'll keep them. Yeah, they can stay out of trouble is always important. But somebody who can duplicate the physical life of a performance to the benefit of a lighting crew is crucial.
Now, did you shoot because of the movement? Were you shooting a little bit more in sequence than most movies, or did you have to jump around like?
No, I think the weather was in charge of our schedule. We shot what we could shoot, and we shot everything that God put on the table. On one day we had, bright blue skies in the morning, and then clouded up. All the lighting conditions changed. We started faking it, and then it hailed. Clouds came in, and hail fell down on us, and we all ran for cover, covered up all the cameras, and started biting our nails. And I could see that those little hailstones, a little bit bigger than BBs, were going to melt pretty soon, and actually the water was going to evaporate because the air is so dry, and that's what happened. It went back to blue skies. We were able to finish that. It was 2:30 in the afternoon, and another front came in with clouds, and it started snowing. And so everybody said, "Okay, that's it. We've had an exhausting day. Put everything on the trucks." I said, "No, you're not going to put anything on the trucks. This snow is a gift, and you're going to be out there in it shooting until we lose the light." So we didn't have any note. The narrative sequence of the script really didn't have any way of controlling our actions. We had to respond to the light and to the country where we were. That was actually our greatest asset. What God did to the sky, and just what the world looked like was, and what it was doing is very active, living thing. I've seen people describe northeastern New Mexico as desolate. I'm baffled when I see that. There's nothing. This place is vibrant. It's a living, breathing organism made up of a whole lot of organisms and some weather, and that was really the world was the boss, not the schedule or the day out of days, or we shot what we could when we could and tried to make the best of that.
I think that there's also, besides the the visual artist and the narrative artist and the actor writer, that's part of the athlete as well. I know the same experience on sets where everybody's ready to fold up and change, and it's like the first play of the game. They hit you harder than you thought. Mm-hmm. Game on, or I didn't know you had that curveball. It was that nasty, or now I know what it's like to play against a guy 6 inches taller than me. Are you going to go back to your trailer, or are you going to jack up your game? And I think that's the athleticness that keeps that part of me alive, and I think it keeps part of you alive as a filmmaker.
That's right. It kept the company alive. If they realized pretty quick they're going to have to become pretty good cinema soldiers if they were going to stay out there, or for any length of time. They got to be pretty tough. They got to be extremely tough. I was very proud of the crew. The labor pool in New Mexico is pretty good. Some of them are there for a reason. They can work more consistently than they can here in Los Angeles, where the competition is tougher. Some of them are living there because they want to, and if you're very careful, you can find some awfully good people. I think the best dolly grip I ever came across lives in Albuquerque. If you're just careful, you can find some people that are not intimidated by any desert or mountain or river. And
the New Mexico lessened that tax credit, so there's probably not as deep a crew as there used to be there.
No, the incentive is good. It's attractive. It's probably one of the 2 or 3 top states in America for film incentives. I think Louisiana's pretty good. It's organized differently because you can get a credit, film incentive tax credit in Louisiana. You don't have to make a movie; you can sell it. That's a little bit different than New Mexico. The incentive in Michigan is quite good. Connecticut is quite good. We're pretty poor in Texas about it. We don't have much of an incentive program in Texas.
They're waving the sign at me, and to wrap it up, but I just want to say we're talking nuts and bolts here, but mostly I'm thrilled to see this and to see my friend make such a great movie, and tell your friends to go see it and to pay their $8
Yeah.
or 10.
Let's all go see it, but more than once.
So
I think it's built for you to see it more than once. It's built to get better every time you see it, and that's the kind of film we want to make. We want to make one that has long legs, lives a long time, and rewards you every time you see it. That's well, I'm beating the drum here for the movie, but it's also an aesthetic argument. We want to make movies that want to be seen again.
Tommy, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.